Have you ever thought about how God doesn't see time as you and I do? I was thinking about that a lot during COVID. I've been home since March from Messiah College, and I always catch myself talking about God's time is different than our time. In the last few years, these 7 words have rung in my head over and over and over again. Yet I still seem to continually make my plans for myself. Day after day, I write a to-do list. Month after month, I write goals for myself. But yet I still don't see what God's to-do list is for me, what God's plans and goals and things like that are for me. The key word is that I'm making these goals and to-do lists myself, not God. So instead, I need to find the right level of patience in God's time. In our current culture, we have a tendency to say, I want it now, I want it now. It's so easy to do that. I do that on a regular basis. Even in our times of struggle, when we find ourselves crying out to God, when, God, when? Trust me when I say this, He hears your prayers. He hears our prayers. Each and every single one of our prayers are heard and answered. A lot of people have the tendency to think that God answers our prayers by saying no, or just does not hear us. However, He does hear you, and He never says no. Pastor Tiedemann a couple of years ago preached about God's 3 answers. His responses are yes, not yet, and I have something better. None of those words are no, right? So God will never say no when we think that God is saying no. Instead, maybe we could think about Him saying that life is going exactly as it should be going, and God's plan is working perfectly, not our plan. So when we think that our plan should be this or that or this, and it's not working, maybe God's plan is going just right. So God isn't telling us no. Instead, He's telling us that His amazing plan for us is coming, and we have to be patient. I know patience is such a hard thing. It could be very hard to be patient in these times. God uses these times of waiting to stretch our faith in Him and bring about change and growth in our lives. We spend a lot of our time waiting because change is a process in of itself. Many people want change, but they don't want to have to go through that waiting process to get that change. But the truth is, waiting is a given. We are going to have to wait. The question is, are we going to wait the wrong or the right way? If we are miserable waiting, we are waiting in the wrong way. We are trying to rush something. We are trying to be a stick in the mud, instead of being closer to God, which is the right way to wait. Get closer to God, pray to God, hear God. Let God be in your life. Let Him help you be more patient and understand that He's there and He's working His plan for you. Waiting with patience takes practice, but as we let God help us in each situation, we develop patience. Patience is developed only under trials, so we must not run from those difficult situations. James 1:4 tells us, let endurance and steadfast and patience have full play and do a thorough work, so that you may be perfectly and fully developed, lacking in nothing. Every change I've gone through in my life has made me more mature, more solid, more well-grounded in the timing that God planned for me. Despite my own creations and my own to-do lists and goals for myself, God made me more mature, solid, and well-grounded through His own time and my patience that I had to give in order to see His plan for me. We learn to trust in God by going through many more experiences that require these trust. By seeing God's faithfulness over and over again, we let go of trusting ourselves and we gradually hand our trust over to God. Look at it this way. If God gave us every single thing we wanted when we wanted it, we would never grow and develop. Timing and trusting work side by side. So, what does it mean exactly to accept God's timing? God gives us hopes and dreams for certain things to happen in our lives, but He doesn't always allow us to see the exact timing of His plan. Although this can be frustrating, not knowing keeps us going. There are times when we might want to give up. If we knew exactly how long it was going to take, if we knew exactly how long it was going to take, we can learn to live in hope and enjoy our lives while God is working on our problems and working through us. We already know that God's plan for our lives is great. It's so good. It's so much better than anything we could ever even imagine. So when we trust God, we can experience that total peace and that happiness in Him. So not knowing God's timing allows us to be more patient, to see the peace around us in the midst of Him working through our lives and giving us things in His time. So when we're relying on God, we put our trust in God. This isn't to say that things will be easy, and it isn't to say that things won't be challenging. We are supposed to be challenged, but it will say that God's plan and God's time for us makes us stronger. There's things that we're going to go through that are going to tear us down. It's going to break us down. It's going to feel really bad. But all of that happens because God wants to make you stronger, and He's bringing you closer to His plan step by step without you even knowing. In the last several years, I found myself asking God that when question, when God, when God? I asked God, when am I going to get a job? When am I going to be done with all these tests? When am I going to get an apartment? When is all this bad stuff going to end? Etc. God heard my prayers and was telling me to be patient. Again, one of those things that I struggle with. I struggle with patience. I struggle to not ask God those when questions pretty much every day. In God's time, these prayers were all answered for me. God gave me answers that weren't no. However, something that I will forever be amazed by is God's answer to say, I have something better than you could ever imagine or have planned for yourself. And that is God's plan, God's timing. For those of you who don't know me, I just graduated from Messiah College with a Bachelor of Science degree in early childhood education, special education, and teaching English to speakers of other languages. Around March, when COVID-19 first started to hit and get really bad around this area, I began applying to several jobs in Pennsylvania. I was applying to about 1 to 2 jobs, if not more, every single day. And that adds up because I stopped applying to jobs in early July once I accepted my job. I kept praying and praying and praying that I would find a job. My personal goal for myself was to get a job in Pennsylvania by the time I graduated. Well, May 16th came and went, and I still didn't have a job. I felt myself feeling defeated. I felt myself feeling extremely defeated and not knowing what my next step would be. But God told me to keep going. God told me that I need to keep going, push through, and there was a plan. I needed to be patient for His plan. And when I was patient for His plan, even though I asked Him when, God still answered my prayers. So after applying to well over 30 districts and well over 50 positions, probably in every district, I heard my answer. God answered my when question in His time. Instead of putting my trust in God at first, I found myself feeling really defeated, feeling really like I had a lack of energy, not wanting to continue applying to job after job after job. However, once I put my trust in God, God revealed His plan to me over time because it was in His time that He wanted me to find what I was supposed to be doing for Him. God knew where He wanted me to teach, and He knew when He wanted me to get hired. God always has a plan for us, even if it differs from our plan for ourselves. God causes things to happen at exactly the right time. Our job is not to figure out when, but instead to make up our mind that we won't have to give up until we cross that finish line and we are living in the complete blessing of God. The more trust that we put into Jesus and keep our eyes focused on Him, the more life we will feel. You will feel so energetic, you will feel free, you will feel light as a feather. Trusting in God brings life. Believing brings rest. You feel like you can do anything with God by your side. Knowing that God has a plan for each and every one of us, and knowing exactly when we are supposed to experience those certain things in our lives, and only God knowing that, it brings us so much closer to Him, and it makes us stronger as Christians. It makes us stronger as people to be able to help other people as well. It makes us feel happier and fuller in His presence. So be patient. I know patience is a hard thing and it takes a lot of practice. Anything that's good in our lives takes practice. So be patient. Trust God's time, because in God's time, what you want will happen, or something better than you could even imagine is going to happen.